Alrighty, so welcome back to the channel. We are here for another Dokkan Beginner's Guide. Now this is not going to be part 4 of the continuation of the Dokkan Battle Ultimate Beginner's Guide. However, this is going to serve for those of you who are interested in starting to tackle the end game content, the difficult content, if you will, right? Maybe you're a player trying to take that leap from being a beginner to more intermediate, or you're trying to reach the end game of Dokkan Battle. This video is going to be the one for you. Now keep in mind, difficult content is going to be subjective to the person. One stage for somebody might be way harder than the same stage for somebody else, but what I aim to do in this video is give you a couple tips and tricks as well as a sample run of a red zone stage. Spoiler alert, we're going to do a pretty easy red zone stage, but it's still going to get across my points. But keep in mind, like I said, we're going to give you some tips and tricks, we're going to do a sample run, and by the end of the video, you should have a decent idea of what difficult content in Dokkan is like, and you can go ahead and use this video as a reference when you're playing different stages in the future. So, with that being said, let me go ahead and show you my frame of reference for this video, or this website is basically like the Bible to me at this point, like how much I use it and refer to it, but we're going to be looking at dokkaninfo.com. Now, I use this website all the time for videos, for information, for kits, for all of some different things that we do within the game. You can see it right here on dokkaninfo.com. Now again, this is not sponsored or anything like that. I'm not partnered with this website. It is just something that I use all the time. Now, this is going to be something we refer back to later, but just keep in mind that this is the website that I'm going to be using when I talk about some specific aspects of this video. So with all that being said, if you do enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you are new, if you want to stay up to date with all of my Dokkan content we post every day, and let's go ahead and get into it. So I think the best way to do this is to just get into the tips right away, right? And the first tip I'm going to give you if you're trying to do a difficult stage is I want you to scout the stage. Now, what do I mean when I say scout the stage? Now, what I mean when I say that is I want you to press the information button on the event and see what it's all about. So let's go down to the event that we're going to be doing. Some of you might know the meme, but this is going to be the red zone, the GT Bosses red zone. I might have passed it. I think I did. Yeah, I did. But the GT Bosses red zone is going to be the example for this video, because I think this is a red zone stage that a lot of beginner players, this is going to be something that they can go in and beat today with a free-to-play team. So that is why I want to show it off. So this is going to be our example against Legic. Shout out to those of you who know about the Legic meme. If you don't worry about it. Someone will let you know in the comments. But what we want to do to figure out what stage are we doing, okay? We're doing stage 1. So how can we scout the stage? We press the information button, and then we're going to scroll down here. You see this number 1 right here? This is going to line up with the stage that we are doing. So now we know the type advantage, and this is going to transition into the second tip, but we'll get into that in a second. But we know the typing of the phase based on the color of the text. We see that the color of this text is blue, therefore we know the enemy is going to be AGL. So what does that mean if we're looking for an AGL enemy? That means we want to focus on the type advantage. I'm sure most of you know how type advantage works, and if you don't know how it works, go ahead and watch the previous beginner's guides, because you're probably not ready for endgame content just yet. But we know we need to emphasize tech when we can, and in this case with the free-to-play team we're going to be using, there are 2 pretty good tech options, so that is going to help us. So that is phase 1 of scouting the stage. Now phase 2 of scouting the stage is going back to this website that I referred to, handy dandy Dokkan info, right? We want to go to the GT Bosses red zone, and sometimes this website likes to be funky, but hopefully we can just go ahead and get right in. You can see right here, this is our opponent, Mr. Legic. So now we know his attack stat is 200,000, we know his super attack damage is 500,000, and here are the different skills that the enemy can do. We'll be talking more about those later. Now, this is, like I said, now we have all of the information on this enemy. We know what he's going to be doing, we know how many attacks he does per turn, we know the attack cooldown, we know how much damage he's doing, we know how much HP he has, and we are essentially ready to go. So, what we want to do is go back to the game and enter into the stage, and what we're going to do is load right in, go to the Super 3 button, and then we're going to use a different team. We're not going to be using this one, we are going to be using the free-to-play Ginyu Force team, as this is one of the first teams that I recommend that you get within the game. Now when we go right here, we're going to be using all the free options, none of the summonable ones, so we're going to go boom, we're going to go bam, and now what did we talk about? What we want to do is emphasize typing. So we're going to make sure that we definitely bring the LR Ginyu, because that is the free-to-play character you get after you max all of them out, and then we're also going to be bringing Goldo, as he is tech as well, and then we just want to make sure that we do not bring any characters that are STR, because we know that no portion of this fight is going to have a situation where Jace is ever going to be type neutral or type advantage. He is always going to be in a disadvantageous position. So that is tip number 2. We need to know what they can do, right? Or we need to emphasize type advantage within the stage. We need to know the typings of the enemy, and sometimes you're going to be put in a situation where you're going to have type disadvantage, right? Difficult fights are usually going to be more than one enemy, and that is where Super Battle Road comes in, Extreme Super Battle Road, all that fun stuff. But again, Legic will be a good example just to emphasize what I'm talking about. So now that we've built our team, we know all of these different things, right? Now, the third tip I want to say is certain enemies can and cannot be debuffed. Now, Legic, if we go back to Dokkan info, I know we're going back and forth a lot, but if I show you here with Dokkan info, you can see the skills on the right that Legic is basically immune to debuffs. You cannot lower his attack, you cannot lower his defense, you cannot stun him, and you cannot seal him. And you can also dodge your attacks. So now that we know that, we know we don't need to bring any units that have a special utility for stunning or sealing or anything like that, or lowering attack, because we know we're not going to be able to debuff him anyway. So that is the third tip that I have for you. And the fourth tip I have is sometimes stages are going to have unique effects. Some of these include locking, sealing, stunning enemies. They can heal themselves. They can take the HP away from you. There are a lot of different effects that these bosses can have. Now, those are kind of just a simple list of it, but it's going to go from a stage to stage basis. If you want to watch a specific video that I've covered where I go to a specific stage, they're all up on the playlist on the channel. So if you're looking at a specific stage, you'll be able to know the gimmicks by going to Dokkan info, and you will know this. So that is the fourth tip that I have for you. And then the fifth tip that I have for you is going to be that guard, damage reduction, and dodge are king, right? When it comes to difficult content, these are going to be the most important aspects of the game, right? This Raccoon has the ability, has a chance for guard. So he's going to cut the damage down in half, or whatever you're going to be getting. So keep in mind, this is like a type advantage. This against when you don't have type advantage, it's going to be helpful. When you have type disadvantage, it's going to be helpful. Guard, essentially, if you want to know down, essentially what guard is, it's a different version of damage reduction that is not a percentage. It is always going to be a flat. It's going to be a flat percentage that doesn't fluctuate based on the passive. Right? Guard is always going to be consistent. When damage reduction can potentially be 1%, it could potentially be 99%. Right? So keep that in mind. And dodge is going to be on a character like Burger, where he's going to have a chance to dodge, and obviously, what's better, right? Dodging an attack for 0 damage or guarding an attack for 100 damage, right? Obviously, you want the dodge because it's 0 damage. And then damage reduction, this one's a little bit trickier on this one, but a unit like Beast Gohan, units like Golden Frieza, this is going to cut whatever damage that you have by that specific percentage. So a unit like Golden Frieza has 90% damage reduction starting on the first turn. So whatever the damage is, if it's 1,900,000 of that is going to be cut off from the damage reduction. So those are going to be the king mechanics when it comes to this type of stuff. Now, the sixth tip that I have for you, and we can actually get into the gameplay now. Actually, let's flip the order of one of these tips. The 6 tips I have for you is items are your friend. Make sure that you are using them. They are here for a reason. We're going to bring a Whis into this event just to show you we don't need to bring it, but we're going to bring it because just to show you, it's like at the end of the day, someone might be like, oh, you used items to beat Legic. Who cares, right? If it's your first time beating it, you're trying to get the stones, you're trying to do a mission, you just want to beat a red zone stage, if it takes items, right? Unless there's a mission for not using items, it does not matter if you use them, I promise. And one thing we can also do, you might not have access to this, but this support memory is going to be buffing extreme class Namek Saga units, so we will be bringing that as well. Now, like I said, the 6th tip, and we can actually get into the gameplay for this because we can go ahead and just do the run now, just to show you guys what I'm talking about. We need to know who our slot 1 units are. And we also need to know who our slot 2 units are. Now, unfortunately, we did not get our slot 1 unit, any of our slot 1 units on this specific setup. But we can make it work. Now, for me, the slot 1 unit is going to be Raccoon, as he is going to have the highest, well, not the highest start of turn defense. We'll actually put Ginyu in slot 1, because he has the highest start of turn defense. Now, Raccoon has a chance to have better defensive prowess, but that is assuming that his guard is not there. Or assuming that his guard is there and we are not sure. So, the fact that we are not sure is going to give me all the assurance that I need to know that we should pop this item, because now we have additional damage reduction on top of the defensive numbers and any other defensive gimmicks that we would potentially have with these characters. So now we are good to go. We can play out this turn as normal, feeling pretty safe with the Whis item that we used, and we should be good to go. So this attack right there was not a super, and we would have probably been okay to not use an item right there, but it's better safe than sorry when playing stuff like this. So one thing I also forgot to mention is take advantage of the friend support, right? we are not going to be using the free-to-play Ginyu summon unit, or Ginyu unit, when we can potentially just bring the summonable one on the team that's going to give us higher stats, and he is going to be the ace in the hole. He's going to be doing most of the work for us. So that is why we brought him the way that we did. It's going to help out a decent bit. You're going to notice a substantially higher amount of defense on this guy, 200,000 and then 229 on the other one. We could probably put that Ginyu in slot 1, but it'll be okay for this case because I want to make sure that we keep this the way that it is, right? So boom, there we go. Now, the next tip I have for you as we're watching this run play out, the attack stats and defensive stats are kind of just whatever. It's just an example of a stage for difficult content. RNG is going to be a factor in your runs, right? That's what makes this game have difficult stages, right? If we could 100% control everything that happened in this game, every attack, all of these different things, it would be too easy, right? The superhero team is a really good example of a team that gives you control over the game, where you can direct enemy attacks, you can take them away with a giant form, you can use a taunt that has guaranteed dodging, you have guaranteed dodges with UI Gokus, you have damage reduction, you have guard. You can essentially take away the enemy's ability to do things to you, like, super attack for super high damage, or put a lot of attacks on a character that probably can't withstand a lot of attacks. So when you have that type of control, you're going to be able to kind of manipulate the boss the way that you want to and stuff like that, but most teams do not have that luxury. And the RNG comes in, right? Where are enemy AoEs, which attack every character on the team, or every character on that turn? So all 3 characters are going to be taking that hit. Where is the super attack? Is it going to be in slot 1, where a unit's going to take a lot of damage, or is it going to be in slot 2, where a unit has to super first or something like that? Or is the super going to go to the unit that's type advantage? All of these things, or type disadvantage. All of these things are the RNG factors that go into the game that make it difficult, that make it challenging, that make it rewarding when you win, and ultimately make it a good time, right? This game might seem simple on the surface with, oh, haha, Candy Crush, right? But when you get into kind of the inner workings and what makes it difficult and fun, kind of challenging runs and stuff like that, I think it's a really good time. So kind of just wanted to say that RNG is going to be a factor in these runs, and you're not always going to get the perfect setup. Sometimes you're going to get screwed by the game, but you just have to kind of come back and try again, maybe the next day, or just go right back in, right? So just keep that in mind. RNG is a thing, and there's no way around that. So the 9th tip that I have, and this one is more of a general sentiment to kind of close out this video, as long as the 10th tip, right? The 9th one is your win rate will not be 100% in any stage that you find to be difficult, right? If you're having a hard time, there's really no way around it, right? We're not going to win every single run in this game. It's just how it's set up. You could get unlucky, something just doesn't go your way and you could lose, right? But the beauty of it is most of these stages are not one and done. Sometimes there are limited attempts on specific stages, but that is not going to stop you from being able to go back in the very next day and stuff like that. So keep in mind that even if, you're having trouble, keep in mind that there is no way, unless an event is easy, that you're going to have a 100% win rate in it, right? If it is difficult, it's that way for a reason, and there's no shame in losing, more than once, or struggling with a stage that your friends might beat easily because they have a better box than yours, right? But stuff like that does not matter. So keep that in mind. That is the 9th tip, that your win rate's not going to be 100%. Losing is part of the fun with this game. It sucks to lose, but you'll be able to go back in and try again. So just like if you're struggling with something, maybe ask a friend for help, or take some of the tips from this video and you might be able to go in and find a better way to do it. And the 10th tip that I have, and the last thing that I want to remind you guys before we go, no plugging or anything like that, I promise. Dokkan this is kind of just a general sentiment. Dokkan is a marathon and not a sprint, right? There's ways that you can play this game that I don't encourage, but I also don't discourage, right? I know that people like to start over, make a new account during the anniversary, pull all the anniversary units with dupes, and then go and try and steamroll as much content as they can. While this can be fun for that anniversary, you lose a lot of the grind that you were working with before, some of the stuff that you built up, and you're going to find yourself missing more and more things that you need with time as it goes on, right? And why am I saying this, right? You don't need to be endgame in Dokkan in a month. You don't need to rush to get through it and have all your favorite characters rainbowed right away. The whole point of this game, and the most fulfilling thing to me, is seeing your account go from, a 0 to hero type of format, maybe more on that later, going from not having all of the characters in the game to sort of slowly over time starting to knock out that collection, and before you know it, you're a couple years in and you have a lot of these great characters and your account's built up and you're not missing important things that you could have had if you didn't re-roll during the anniversary, right? If you're a gacha player and you're familiar with how this stuff works, I'm sure a lot of you know what re-rolling is. I'm sure a lot of you maybe try again or start over for the anniversaries and stuff like that. I recommend that you do not do that, because this way you can have that kind of growth, that progression, right? Try and treat this like, not like an RPG, but sort of like an RPG, right? Where there's progression as the time goes. It's not just about collecting, it's about progressing the characters, making them better, making your account better and stuff like that over time. So, you know, don't waste stones just to take down a stage that's giving you trouble right now for a character that's not worth summoning for, just to get that 5-stone mission or to get that 7 stones from clearing the stage, right? It's not worth it. The game is a marathon, it's not a sprint. You don't need to clear every stage right away, and that is going to be my last tip for you, okay? So I hope that made things clear. I know Legic is not the hardest stage in the world, but if you want to see me take down some of the harder stages using more endgame tactics and stuff like that, and not talking from a beginner perspective, you can go ahead and take a look at the videos on the channel. We basically no-item everything that's difficult in this game, so don't forget to check all that stuff out, right? And if you'd enjoyed the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you are new around here so you don't miss out on any of the Dokkan content that I post. I try and post a video every single day, so make sure that you stay tuned for that and turn on notifications so you don't miss out when I do. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your time. Best of luck with the endgame content in this game. It's a great time, and I hope you enjoy all of it, and I'll see you all in the next one.